everyone, and welcome to Nick's Active Adult podcast series. Thank you to Trapless Property Management for sponsoring our Nick Chats podcast on Active Adult. From pre-lease to operations to lifestyle engagement, TPM's full-service management solutions are purpose-built for active adult communities, designed to maximize NOI for owners and investors. I'm Caroline Clapp, Senior Principal on the research team at NIC, which is the National Investment Center for Seniors Housing and Care. We are a nonprofit real estate research organization focused on senior housing. One of my subject matter areas at NIC is active adult rental communities, which NIC defines as age-eligible, market-rate, multifamily rental properties that are focused on enhanced lifestyle programming without providing meals. So those are the parameters that NIC Map uses to track active adult rental communities. And now we welcome to episode 3 in NIC's Active Adult podcast series, Christine Tarras, Director of Client Services at Greystar. Christine will cover this episode's topic, which is lifestyle and engagement, determining the must-haves and beyond in resident programming. Thanks for being with us today, Christine.
Thank you so much for having me, Caroline.
So just to kick things off, please tell us about your role at Greystar and how your work in client services connects to active adult lifestyle and to programming specifically. How large is Greystar's active adult footprint today?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. So I lead our new business pursuits across the country, working collaboratively with all of our different functional areas within Greystar. We've built out a dedicated active adult platform. So we have not only our operations team, but our sales team as well, and our lifestyle team as well. So we connect all of those together. So whether it's ground up development, acquisition, our team works to understand the needs of the client's goals and understanding the market as well. That's very key in looking at both. You really have to dive deep. You're going to hear a lot in active adult about psychographics and demographics and understanding who that consumer base is in any given market. Understanding the adult children, where they're located, and where our demographic is located is very important as well. So then we look holistically to determine what the expenses are going to be that are going to drive the revenue. So really that core customer value proposition of the lifestyle program, what are the value the resident's going to see and want to pay for in order to drive that NOI? So we work directly with developers to build out spaces as well in each of the communities and intentionally design them as purpose-built active adult communities to engage the residents long-term. Right now, we have 166 communities, a little over 29,000 units across the U.S. We have 65% external partners and 35% owned assets. We're in 27 states and in 110 markets.
Awesome. Quite large. So with all of that, sort of geographic breadth and expertise, can you tell us for operators or new entrants who are coming to active adult from conventional multifamily, what's the single biggest mindset shift they need to make about their job?
Sure. It really is understanding the consumer, understanding the demographic, what it is that they're looking at for, what is the value that they perceive in any given community. The other thing, if you're looking at a ground up development, is definitely going to be that pre-leasing timeline. So I know a lot of multifamily developers are used to 3 months or 4 months of pre-leasing activity. And we truly are, call it, 10 to 12 months. That does change in different markets and in different product types, but it really is a much longer process. And in a new market where there is an active adult, there is a lot more education that needs to go into the market so that they understand what that is, as opposed to traditional senior housing and independent living, assisted living, and how we're different. So a lot of education there. There's also different pricing strategies that they need to understand. What our residents look at is a lot different than the multifamily consumer. So effective rent versus concession strategies, things of that nature.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. So a lot to learn coming from conventional multifamily as you're going to move into active adult. So how does Greystar define lifestyle and engagement, which we talk a lot about in active adult? So in the context of active adult, why does the quality of programming matter as a business outcome and not just a resident satisfaction metric?
Sure. I mean, it's defined to me, three words. It's connection, credibility, and our core values. I mean, that customer value proposition directly correlates to the value residents perceive and what they're going to pay for. So it, but it needs to match the market. So it's not a one size fits all programming approach. You definitely need to be able to adapt to what the market is telling you that it is viable for that market. So there's a lot of examples of maybe overbuilding or developing a lifestyle program too quickly, too robustly. And our demographic is one that you never want to take things away from. So you have to be very careful and very strategic about that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So there's a distinction between programming that helps lease up a property, and you started to touch on this, and programming that keeps residents renewing year after year. So how do you think about that difference? And how does your approach differ across the asset's life cycle?
Sure. So it really is culture over curriculum. So that core programming is in place, but it shifts and enhances as you work through a lease up. So you have to listen to your resident and really, we do a lot of surveys. We do a lot of communication with them to understand what it is that they're looking to see more of, what they like, what's new, what their passions were through their life. A lot of times can be implemented within the community. And it gives them that ownership as well when they get to lead some of those resident activities. So that belonging creates, I like to say, your vibe is your tribe. And so it really does, as the on-site team is very closely working to build those relationships and those connections with people, that vibe carries into what that lifestyle program is going to look like. So it evolves over time through the lease up at stabilization. And then as the years pass, it changes and adapts as well. So you really just have to keep listening to the residents.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Um, and sort of in a similar vein, active adult residents' ages may span from those who are closer to 55 and those who are into their 70s. So, how do you design a programming calendar that serves the full spectrum of your resident population without diluting the experience for anyone?
Yeah. Connection's the common language. So many times we'll adjust timing of events based on, to capture the younger demographic that may still be working with events that they show interest in. So a lot of times it's changing the timing, but it's also not diluting the experience. So, our residents do age in place as long as they possibly can. That's one of the beautiful things about an active adult community. But once again, like I said, you don't want to dilute the experience. So yoga is yoga, and having very experienced professional instructors who can maybe adapt yoga to an individual's ability is different than changing the whole yoga experience just for, an 85-year-old demographic. So they'll individualize the experience instead of adapting the whole experience. So it's good for all.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So, sort of modifications, personalization. Sort of similarly, thinking about lessons learned and looking back, how has Greystar's programming philosophy evolved over the last, call it maybe 5 years? Are there things that you used to do that either the data or resident feedback told you to stop? You mentioned the surveys, and vice versa. Is there anything positive that you added?
The content of the events definitely evolves over time, but the framework I think remains the same. So we nurture innovation. So some of the most well received and heavily adapted events across our communities really have been events brought up by our on-site team members in response to the resident feedback, just like you said. So a lot of times, casino night can evolve from, a group of residents who love playing poker who, have kind of wanted to bring that experience to more of the residents in the community. So it is really listening to them and kind of building out that programming based on their wants and needs. So
Yeah. So keep listening to your residents.
listening, keep evolving.
Keep
Yes.
evolving. Yeah. Yeah. So one of the reasons we're having this particular podcast today, which I talked to you about, Christine, is at Nick. I think new entrants are starting to get the message that lifestyle and programming and engagement is important. So now they're calling us and saying, what do we absolutely need to have in programming? So let's sort of dive into that. If you had to identify the programming or lifestyle elements that are absolute must-haves, that if they were absent, it would hurt your leasing velocity or it may spike turnover. What are they? What are the must-haves?
So I want to back up a little bit. I think it's definitely striking a balance between the self-led events and the facilitated events. So both team members and residents really represent the constituents of our community. So building a rapport and fostering a sense of belonging must take place in both contexts. So while mix and mingles are, a big staple event at a lot of our communities, there are some markets in some states where it's not accepted well. And so being able to be flexible and having, tea time or other events that really draw in that community are important. And looking at amenity spaces that are must haves, that great room and demonstration kitchen. I mean, that is just the heart and pulse of the community. Having it very strategically placed by the entrance as well is very important so that you really feel there's always people in there, whether they're working on puzzles or just having a cup of coffee together and having that, right at the entrance of the community where you can bring in prospects and you can, and it felt immediately when you walk into the building is very important. Large yoga studios are very important in active adult communities. I think, going back to multifamily developers getting into the space, that's one of the biggest differences in the fitness room is kind of flipping that equipment size room and the yoga room. Because they love their fitness led classes. And so that's a big one. Pools and hot tubs are really kind of expected in most markets, even colder markets in the Northwest as well. They're still, kind of a staple in most communities. So they're expected. Those are really the core areas. Outside spaces, green spaces, being able to walk and be active is very important. And having that shade in those outdoor spaces is important to our demographic as well. I would say those are kind of the key amenity spaces.
That's very helpful. Thank you. And then it's sort of on the flip side, what are the programming categories that might sound compelling in a marketing deck, but that residents don't engage with meaningfully?
Sure. So we did have a big lesson learned on our platform in the very beginning, and it was with the weekday breakfasts and the continental breakfasts that were served. And it does sound good in theory, but in practice, only a small percentage of the residents really came out into it to take advantage of it. So likely due to that fact and in the staffing load to kind of set that up, really kind of execute it well, with the few residents that wanted to engage in that. It 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 didn't make sense financially, I think, to the property. The residents really we were able to take that out of the communities, very strategically, very, like I said, you don't want to take things away from our demographic once you've implemented them, but if you can survey them, let them know the why and help them create value with that somewhere else. And a lot of times that's heightened mix and mingles, adding, lunch and learns and dining events, really kind of add that value to a larger group that come out to experience it. So that's really one of the key ones that question made me think of was our continental breakfast.
Yeah, that's helpful. We have heard that was something that was around at a lot of properties at the beginning, and that has sort of the offerings have evolved.
Yeah. And honestly, and I think about it too, the salon and the massage rooms, we've seen a lot of those in a lot of, communities in the beginning of the active adult, thesis, if you will. And those were hard as well. A lot of we're very active. Our demographic is, still driving. They're out in the community. A lot of them have gone to the same nail tech or, hairdresser. They're, 20 years. And so having those in the community weren't as easily adapted, as they were in more traditional senior living where, they didn't necessarily drive or get out. And that was kind of their outreach. So that's been another one. But like I said, it is still very market specific sometimes because there are still markets where that's accepted and thrives. So
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's helpful to hear the use of the amenity spaces and how those have evolved over time. So starting to turn a little bit to measuring results. So social connection and combating isolation are frequently cited as core value propositions of active adult communities. So how do you tackle that in a programming calendar? And then how do you measure whether you're delivering on it?
That's a really great question. Achieving this form of engagement is attributed to the interactions that take place beyond the event calendar, honestly. So we strive for intention from the start. So when it comes to establishing connection, residents with their very first interaction with their team members is key. So ways that we kind of measure this is going to be community town hall meetings, resident surveys, and there's software that tracks attendance some of our events, and that measures the resident engagement. I think having a strong resident ambassador program is a key indicator too of how engaged your residents are, as well as how many clubs the residents form and take ownership of on their own. That means they're truly investing in the community and in their friendships within that community. So I think keeping communities, active adult communities, you'll hear a lot are on the smaller side, kind of that 160 to 180 unit size is the sweet spot, if you will. And that helps foster that community as well and keeps that engagement, in a tight knit family. So,
So, fitness and wellness programming seem to be universally included, but the range of execution is enormous. So, what separates a fitness program that residents genuinely use and talk about from one that just fills space on a schedule?
sure, I would say it's the variability in the offerings as well as the consistency in instructors. To be honest, just like our on site team members, the residents get very attached to them, and it's not any different with our fitness instructors either. So definitely having consistency in them is key to having a successful fitness program.
That's great. And that's a theme we're hearing about retention. So, if you can retain staff, you can retain residents. So, that makes a lot of sense with the fitness programming as well. And then, how much of a programming calendar should be structured and staff led versus resident driven and organic?
Sure. So while our on-site teams play a part in scheduling any and all events within the community, our team members generally lead less than half of the events, with the remaining events being either resident or vendor led. So we aim in active adult to first articulate to the prospective residents the opportunities that await them to get them excited, and then we have to deliver on that. So we follow up by emboldening each resident to create additional opportunities within the community. We've touched on that a little bit already, but really that's getting to know them, understanding what their passions and interests are, and then developing that into the program. And they want purpose. They want to teach others, what they've learned in their life. And so that's very important in our communities.
Yeah, that's great. That's very helpful. And then, sort of moving further into staffing, the lifestyle and engagement director role, so often called L&E, it's often described as the most important hire in active adult operations. So, what does an exceptional lifestyle director look like? Sort of background, skill set, and how difficult is it to find and retain that talent today?
Yeah. When it comes to background of our lifestyle coordinators, it definitely varies widely. They're entering into the role. Some have experience in property management. Others are charting a new course, following careers from education, wellness, or finance, honestly, to name a few. We've had the fortune of seeing exceptional talent from individuals of all of these backgrounds and more. So, thanks to I think it's three common threads we look for. I would say consistency, creativity, and care. So, having a passion to work with our demographic is extremely important. We don't expect our lifestyle coordinators to coordinate lavish banquets week after week. So, instead, we seek out individuals who are committed to deliver memorable experiences and interactions to our residents each and every day. So even simply sharing a smile and a greeting is very important. So they're going to be creative in terms of event coordination, marketing tactics, and identifying ways to connect with residents from all walks of life, as well as connecting those residents with one another is very important. Above all, our lifestyle coordinators care about what they do and who they do it for. And that comes through just every day in their daily experiences in the community. And I think what we have on our platform, which is great, is we have a regional lifestyle manager who really pulls all of the lifestyle coordinators across the country together, sharing those creative ideas, what works, what hasn't worked, is very important just in evolving in this space and keeping things, new and fresh.
That's great. So, yeah, a lot of hospitality, but then sharing ideas across and evolving. So you've made, once you make that sort of staffing decision, if you have capital partners or, institutional equity lenders, family offices, they might not always see programming as a value driver. So how do you make the business case that investing in lifestyle staff and programming is accretive to NOI rather than a drag on it?
Yeah, we're very fortunate that our partners do believe in and invest in the lifestyle programming. I think um, one of the key ways in talking to new people in the space is getting them to tour our communities and see that lifestyle in action. Once they step into the building and, there's a grand event going on, or even just, multiple small events throughout the community, they really get engaged by our residents will walk up, introduce themselves, tell them all about the community. And, immediately they can see why, you know, active adult is, kind of one of those game changers and how it's changing the lives of our demographic daily. So I think that's very important.
Yeah. So walk it and live it and see it. See what the
Yep.
nuances and the differences. Yeah.
You got it.
Are there programming costs that should maybe be captured as a resident amenity fee or included in rent rather than included in operating expenses? And how does that presentation affect the asset's attractiveness to capital?
Sure. So most of our events are included in the rent premium. So it's shown as an expense line on the GL, generally kind of within the marketing expense bucket as well. Our communities are committed to transparency and delivering on our promise. So as previously mentioned, our lifestyle programs are what set our communities apart. So it's our philosophy that all who live in our communities deserve to enjoy the extension of the event offerings to the fullest. So events that incur added costs for any kind of specialty events or generally take place off site. A lot of times that's also when we were talking earlier about residents creating their own clubs. We've had adventure clubs that they take vacations together, things of that nature, but it's usually cultivated individually with themselves for the extras.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We're hearing a lot about travel clubs lately too. So that's great. So we're getting close to near the end of our time. So let's talk about innovation and technology. What's the most innovative or unexpected programming element you've seen work exceptionally well on a Greystar active adult community? Something that wasn't in the original business plan, but became a winner.
Sure. I mean, over the years, we've witnessed innovative ideas introduced by countless team members. I would say many of these ideas are gaining attention and traction across our community, steadily replacing and becoming a staple at several sites. Game shows, theater productions, choreographed dances are among some of the most memorable experience programming efforts we've seen. Watching the communities pivot during COVID, I think, was a huge aha moment just in active adult. It was very clear that, you know, through Zoom calls, virtual fitness classes, our demographics still yearn to stay connected to each other, and being able to pivot and on a national platform and keep everybody engaged and seeing the value of living in an active adult community was, I mean, that's one of the best things I've ever seen in my career. So,
Yeah, that is impressive.
yeah.
And then, so technology is showing up everywhere in multifamily operations, and you started to touch on this, but where does tech, so whether that's community apps, I don't know if you do wearables yet or AI driven programming, where does that add value in active adult lifestyle operations today? And sort of also, where is it more hype than substance?
Sure. I mean, we've benefited greatly from the insights granted to us by data aggregated across our communities. We use that to make informed decisions, definitely in lifestyle operations. Um, it- it's accomplished through various customer management systems. It, it's still new and evolving. I would say it's no, you know, it's worth noting how impactful social media has been for our business. I think that was one of the things, early on that may not have been as, well thought of in active adult, but they are truly our residents are engaged in social media and really sharing the content of their communities. As far as wearables and things like that, I think we're on the cusp of a lot of new technology that I've heard out there. Um, but it's not completely integrated in communities yet, to that
Yeah.
point specifically. But
Yeah, that makes sense. So traditional senior housing, there's a lot of age tech out there that's, being developed for traditional senior housing, but I think we're still trying to figure out where it fits exactly in active adults.
Mhm.
That's really helpful. So then sort of looking ahead as active adult cohort evolves. So for example, the leading edge of the millennial generation will hit 55 in less than 10 years. So they'll be hitting 55 years old, the millennials. So how do you see the program and expectations and lifestyle preferences of future residents differing from today's 55 plus resident? And how are you preparing for that shift?
Yeah, I mean, we anticipate that specific activities may not be as sought after by the up and coming active adult cohort. I mean, I'm a pickleball lover myself. I can't imagine like without pickleball, there may be a day and age when, that's kind of phasing out. I do think to your point earlier, there's going to be a lot more tech infusion in active adult in the coming years that's going to evolve a lot of our lifestyle programming. So it's going to be interesting, to see that evolution come come into our program. But our business model is built on this principle, and although the way in which people approach this may change, we're prepared to continue offering opportunities for people to connect for generations to come. So that connection is just at the core value of what the lifestyle program is going to continue to be. So
That's fantastic. Yeah. So we've got, the baby boomers and people are focusing Gen X right now. And then we've got millennials. So just keep the connection going. Yeah.
yeah,
So as we wrap up, I'm going to put a slide up that shows the many active adult resources available today from Nick and Nick Map. So while we're looking at all those different resources available on our website, last question for you, Christine, for an operator or a new entrant who is launching their first active adult community and wants to get the lifestyle program right from day one. What's your single most important piece of advice?
sure. For long-term resident satisfaction and business success, I would encourage team members of any active adult community to develop a lifestyle program that not only appeals to both current and prospective residents, but also excites the team members themselves. Residents are much more inclined to become stakeholders in a community. This calendar of events if the on-site team takes personal interest beyond simply scheduling out the events. I say this all the time. Our number one KPI is our on-site teams. I mean, our team members are just phenomenal in what they do and how they execute this lifestyle program, and that is just very important to our industry. So,
That's great. Thanks so much. Is there anything else you want to add before we start to wrap up here?
now thank you so much for your time and allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Great. So, thank you to our listeners of this episode in Nick's Active Adult podcast series. You can find additional podcasts on our website, nic.org, nic.org, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you again to our guests, Christine Tarras, Director of Client Services at Greystar, who covered today's episode on lifestyle and engagement, determining the must-haves and beyond in resident programming. And thanks again to Trepless Property Management for sponsoring this episode.